तब कथामृतं तप्त जीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमंगलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः. Let us resume our discussion on Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual discourses with the Brahmo devotees at their festival in Sinthi area of North Kolkata on Sunday, the 19th of October 1884. This appears in the first volume of the original Bengali version, Sri Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita, 1:12:6, first volume, 12th chapter, 6th section. And it appears in the second volume of the Hindi translation, Sri Ramakrishna Vachanamrit, 299:6, second volume, 99th chapter and 6th section. In the Hindi version, the chapter is continued from first volume to second volume. And in the English translation, it is under chapter 32 in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Let us recapitulate the salient points with which we ended our last Sunday class. Sri Ramakrishna has repeatedly earmarked that the goal of human life is to realize God. For all human beings, irrespective of positions, education, financial or social background, everyone has the same goal. Ultimate goal is to realize God. And God is our very own, and God is our most intimate. He is not only our very own, He is closest with us. Now the question comes, how will we know that we have realized God? What are the signs of God realization? This was the topic being discussed in this section. Sri Ramakrishna says that realization of God has some signs. And one is that the person will transcend his body consciousness. देहात्म बुद्धि चले जाते हैं. Now, ईश्वर की प्राप्ति होने का यही लक्षण है कि वो आदमी पके हुए नारियल की तरह हो जाते हैं, तब उसकी देहात्मिका बुद्धि चली जाती है. देह के सुख और दुख से उसे सुख और दुख का अनुभव नहीं होता है. वो आदमी देह सुख नहीं जानता, वह जीवन मुक्त होकर विचरण करता है. He becomes free while in this life, जीवन मुक्त. Mukti or liberation is from what? We are all aspiring to be free. Mukti is our song of life, that you want to be free. Now, how are you bound? What is our bondage? Our bondage is this body consciousness, that I am the body. This ignorance is our bondage. And this bondage continues not only this life, for multiple lives, life after life. And when we can disidentify ourselves from this body consciousness, then we become free. So this disidentification can be possible either while we are alive or after we are dead. This body is gone. So when we have this freedom after our death, that is called Videha Mukti. Deha nahi hai, Videha Mukti. But if we can achieve this freedom while we are alive, then it's called Jivan Mukti. On both counts, Mukti is achieved. So what is the goal? Videha Mukti or Jivan Mukti? Jivan Mukti is the goal. Jivan Mukti Sukha Prapti Hetavi Janmadharini. We are born to enjoy the bliss of Jivan Mukti, living a life of freedom, free while alive. This human body is received to have that pleasure. Unfortunately, we are all so much busy with different kind of pleasure, we miss the central mark. We get involved in the pleasure available with this physical body. That is called sensual pleasure. That is called attraction for lust and wealth. Kamini Kanchane Asakti. So, as long as we have this body consciousness, we cannot have the freedom of Jivan Mukti. It is a contradiction of terms. What we want on the one hand sensual pleasures, and on the other we want the pleasure of Mukti. Please take a pause and think that we are asking night and day simultaneously. You'll have neither day nor night. So the goal is to have Jivan Mukti, which is possible when we transcend this body consciousness, whereas the sensual pleasures are involved with this body only. The pleasures available in this world can be enjoyed with one instrument, and that is our physical body, our mind. So we want to retain our identification of the physical body in order to enjoy essential pleasures. The body is enjoying, and when I identify that I am the body, then I become enjoyer. If I have delinked myself with this body, then body may enjoy or body may suffer. Then that will not touch me. Last week I gave you the example of Swami Muktinathananda, that during an operation, he withdrew his body consciousness and he didn't require any anesthesia because the body was having pain, but he didn't identify himself, his consciousness with the body. He withdrew his consciousness from the body, and body was being operated without any concern. So Sri Ramakrishna says here that when a person realizes God, his body consciousness will vanish, and then he becomes Jivan Mukta. This we discussed at length in the last Sunday class. And then there is another sign that when he thinks of God, when he hears of God, then he becomes overwhelmed with the love of God, so much so that tears roll down his cheek. It's not that we do not weep. We know how to weep, and we do weep for things of the world, for our various kinds of grief, for our dukkha, our misery. There are three types of miseries for which we feel sorry. One is adhyatmik, another is adi bhautik, and third is adi daivik. These are the catastrophes, difficulties in our life. Adhyatmik means the pain which is caused by my own body. If we are physically suffering, we are ailing, we have aches, we have trauma, we suffer, we feel painful. When the pain is too much, then tears roll down from our eyes. Similarly, there is adi bhautik. When we get pain from, not from this body, from other bodies, from other persons. Someone scolds you, insults you, tortures you with their behavior, with their speech, with their conduct. So that gives pain to us, and if it is unbearable, then we weep. And third is adi daivi, the suffering caused by natural disaster. This flood, this drought, too much hot, too cold. When it is not bearable, then automatically we weep. So these are the forms related to our physical body. So when we have delinked ourselves from physical body, our consciousness, and consciousness cannot stay. Either it will be directed toward the world, and if it is withdrawn, then it automatically goes towards God. So there is this God, soul and nature. There are three entities. Soul is in between. God is one hand, Prakriti and nature on the other. The soul or Jivatma, as long as it gets identified with nature, this Prakriti, then naturally it cannot realize God. And when it is taken away from Prakriti, then it automatically shifts towards God. Vishaya Virag is equivalent to Ishvara Anurag. Detachment, dispassion from these worldly pleasures is equivalent to love for God. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, on the one hand, he'll have transcended the body consciousness, Dhyatmika Buddhi chale jayegi. On the other, he'll be lost in the love of God. Now the question was asked, that also we discussed, that how it can be attained, how that such exalted state can be attained. And Sri Ramakrishna says here that it is possible in the life of householders to have such kind of love for God. There have been enough instances in our history, in our descriptions, that people engaged in various activities of the world could attain such exalted stage of getting lost in the thought of God. So how to attain this exalted stage? Sri Ramakrishna says you have to pray. Pray earnestly to God, who is your very own. Now he adds that since God is your very own, He can even demand that you should be having this God consciousness. And if you demand with right earnestness, then he cannot refuse your prayer. It is our birthright. A child wants to see its mother. Child does not require any qualification. Only it requires a wish, a persistent, determined wish to see its mother. And when it cries, when it prays, it calls for the mother. Mother has to come. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, when you pray to God with tears in your eyes in solitude. Now this prayer is not to show to others. Dekha beti ka cheez nahi hai. That we often do. We want to show that how spiritual we are, how elevated we are. We have to have a genuine prayer. A child does not care who's watching him or not. It wants his mother, that's all. Mother has to come. Only have to stick to our prayer. What happens when the child cries for the mother? Mother tries to cajole the child with a toy, with some sweets, with some milk. So the child forgets. That's what happens here also. When a person sincerely prays to God, then God keeps his mind away by giving some chocolates, some favor, some betterment in various ways, either with some persons or with some objects. So the goal is deviated. We have to stick to the goal. Goal orientation is most important. But goal of life is to see God. Under any circumstances, we should not compromise. Come what may. We may be given favorable situations, we may be given adverse situations. Never mind. The goal has to be kept alive. And then he has to come. Ask and it shall be given you. There is the word of the Bible. Go on asking. Do not deviate. It shall be given. Knock and the door shall be opened unto you. Seek and ye shall find it. That's why Swami Vivekananda says, do not stop. You have to continue till the goal is reached. That continued march is necessary. Prapya varan nibodhata, uttishtata jagrata, prapya varan nibodhata. Arise, awake and stop not till the goal is reached. We stop in the middle. There is a problem with us. So that has to be continued. The journey has to be continued. So this was the discussion we had. And now, Sri Ramakrishna, so far the sub-judge was asking the question. It's very interesting. There's all conversation going on with the Brahmo devotees, and the questioner was a sub-judge. A very venerable person. He was educated, well-placed, and also devotee. Now Sri Ramakrishna is asking a question to sub-judge. It's very interesting, and he is giving a solution. He is asking to the sub-judge, let me ask you one thing. Are vanity and egotism the result of knowledge or of ignorance? We are talking about our ignorance, vanity, dehatma buddhi, feeling of body consciousness. Now Sri Ramakrishna is asking, does it come when our knowledge dawns or when our ignorance comes. A child does not have a Dhyatma Buddhi. A child, a baby, it is not, when a child, it cannot speak. As much as we do, that I am so and so, this feeling is not there. Physical pain it can feel, but it cannot identify itself with its physical body. No identification so far. When you grow, gain knowledge, then we get identified. I am so and so, and get the physical parameters identified with us. श्री रामकृष्ण सब जज के प्रति अच्छा अभिमान और अहंकार ज्ञान से होते हैं या अज्ञान से? Vanity and egoism are products of knowledge or ignorance. Immediately he answers, egoism is the nature of tamas. It is begotten by ignorance. अहंकार तमोगुण का है, अज्ञान से पैदा होती है। इस अहंकार की आड़ है, इसलिए लोग ईश्वर को नहीं देख पाते। दिस इज द सीक्रेट why we are not able to realize God. He gives in one word. On account of the barrier of ego, one does not see God. We all want to see God, but we are not able to see God. Why? On account of this. So please note that this is the secret of the problem. सब समस्या के जड़ यही है, अहंकार। इसलिए कहावत है कि दिस जो हमारे जो अहंकार है, दिस फीलिंग ऑफ आई एंड माइंड, दिस डिजायर टू सेटिस्फाई दिस बॉडी कॉन्शियसनेस, दैट इज द रूट ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम। चाहा चमार चोर नीचन से अति नीच, मैं तो परम ब्रह्म हूँ अगर तू न रही थी बीच। This अहंकार is separating us from ourselves and God. As I said, there is soul, nature and God. Between God and soul, Jivatma and Paramatma, what is separating? A wall, prachir. That wall is called the wall of ego, ahankar. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says we have to understand this point, because that is the root of our problem. If ahankar can be annihilated, removed, then this body consciousness can be transcended. So ahankar is the identification. So ahankar is of two varieties. We must have ahankar. Well, you should understand that ahankar is a part and parcel. Ahankar cannot be removed. As we have a body, so we have a mind. Antakarana, subtle body. The body means physical body, which can be seen before a mirror. Behind this physical body, encasing, within this encasing of the physical body, there is a subtle body, Sukshma Sharira, which is called mind. Mind has four functions. Man, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar. Mind is composed of three constituents and four functions. Mind has four functions. First is memory, which is called chitta, remembrance. Is one function of the mind, to remember. Then cogitation, manana, preparing alternatives, vichar, chintan. So this is called, the function is called manas, chitta. Third is nirnaya, decision, determination. That is done by buddhi, intellect. One is remembrance, another is cogitation, third is decision, and fourth is ahankar, actualization. None of these will be functional until the fourth ahankar is active. So ahankar is a function of the mind. Ahankar has to remain as long as mind retains. So ahankar is of two varieties. One is unripe ego, another is ripe ego. Kacchami, pakkami. What is this unripe ego? Ahankar means identification, feeling of I and mine. When we wrongly perceive myself as this body and mind and my family, then it is unripe ego. Kacchami, that is generated due to ignorance. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says. That separates us from God. And when you have ripe ego, that is identification with the divine. So you have a freedom. Either we get identified with this world, or you get identified with God. If you get identified with world, that is generated due to ignorance, then we cannot get identified with God simultaneously. Both cannot be done. We want both. We want to enjoy this world, and we want to enjoy these spiritual treasures. Now, enjoyment of the world is possible with this physical body, and spiritual bliss is attainable when it transcends physical consciousness. So both are contradiction of the terms. Both is not possible simultaneously. So the question was asked, if we get pleasure through our body consciousness from this world, why should we aspire to have divine bliss? Why don't we have physical pleasures only? There's a song of most of the people, we are fine. We have plenty of physical pleasures. Those who are denied of physical pleasures, let them go for love for God. We are perfectly having plenty of physical pleasures, amenities, resources, and we have the capabilities to enjoy. So why don't we have it and get satisfied? The problem is that this body is limited, and our demand is unlimited joy. No one is satisfied with limited joy. Bhumaibo sikham nalpe sukham asti na alpe sukham asti. We want to be happy, but we want unending joy. Nobody wants that his pleasure should end on certain day, or pleasure should be limited. More we enjoy, more we have the desire for further enjoyment. It is an unending pursuit. That is fine. We must have unending joy. But unfortunately, the instrument is finite. A pair of eyes, pair of ears, a limited dimension of the body. How can you have unlimited joy with a limited finite body? Again, a contradiction of the term. It is a mad pursuit. We have to pause. We have so much of wisdom. We are all intelligent. We must employ it in our own life and find out what are we after? What are we doing? We are trying to achieve something which is futile, impossible. So when this message is given, we have so much of conviction because physical pleasures are readily available. We have so much of infatuated with the physical pleasures, notwithstanding, we engage in physical pleasures. We say, no, we do not believe, let us try it out. So this attempt, this experiment goes on for births and births. Chain of births together. And on one fine morning it dawns on our mind, this is an unending pursuit, futile attempt, it can never happen. Then our mind turns towards God, and that is the beginning of our religion. Beginning of our spiritual life comes when we feel that physical pleasures are not the be-all and end-all of life. We want something more. It cannot be given. This world cannot give what we want. So we should exhaust all channels. Then our mind turns to God, and that is a genuine search for God. If we get, so that is called Vairagya. That is the beginning of our spiritual life. But if we get hurt in this world, we become failure to achieve physical enjoyment, then temporarily we have dispassion. Suppose it is denied, you make an attempt and it is not given. So temporarily some dispassion comes. But when the favorable situation comes, then that is forgotten. That is called Morkot Vairagya, lukewarm dispassion. It comes and goes, that will not work. When that becomes genuine, we are convinced that this is not possible, then we turn towards God. So Sri Ramakrishna says, till we have that stage, we retain this ahankar, body consciousness, feeling of I and mine, and that separates us from God. So the Upanishad says, Aham Brahmasmi, I am God. I am Brahman. So that is possible to utter when I am convinced that I am not body. What is happening in our philosophical discussion, in our study and teaching, we are uttering, I am God, Aham Brahmasmi. But in our practical life, we are behaving that I am this physical body. It's a dichotomy. We are befooling ourselves. So Aham Brahmasmi is Pakkami. And I am this body, Dehatma Buddhi is Kachami. We want to retain both black and white simultaneously. That will not work. That's why you are failure. So this feeling of I and mine, our identification with this body, Dehatma Buddhi, is generated due to ignorance. And when knowledge dawns, then this ahankar goes, the divine ego comes. So the question is that most of us, if not all of us, have this body consciousness. Then what would be the position of our ego? We cannot say that I am God because I have the body consciousness. Then what is the way out? The way out is, we must feel that I am His. It's not soham, saha, aham, soham, I am He. This should be converted in our life. As long as we are body conscious, we have no right to say that I am He. Because I consider practically I am this body. If there is a physical pain, if there is a stomach ache, I cannot say that I am not feeling. Because I have this body consciousness at the moment. So I have no right to say that I am God. What I can say, Dasoham, I am His servant, I am His child. To have a relation with God. So that is possible. As long as we have body consciousness, there is Dvaitam, duality. And when there is transcendence of body consciousness, there is one. There is non-duality. I am merged with God. So long as we have this duality, we must maintain this difference. And the safe way is to attach with God with some relation. So Sri Ramakrishna says, this ahankar, this abhiman, vanity, abhiman means vanity, that I am this body, I have this family, I have this and I have that. Now why he is saying this to subjoy? Because when a person attains some power and position, he has his ego gets inflated. So they should be more careful. That's why Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Pash pada mane pash pada. Pass on the one meaning means passing examination. So more you pass examinations, more you attain degrees and diplomas, Sri Ramakrishna says, more we get entangled with pasha. Pasha means another bandhan. Pash, mukta shiv. Pash, baddha jeev. Jiva and Shiva is different. Shiva is pash mukta. Free from any bondage. Free from any chain. Pash is chain, bondage. So Shiva is free. And Pash Baddha Jeev, we are bound by this chain. So the number of chains increases, more and more degrees are attained, because that inflates our ego. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, Ek jananam agyan, anek jananam agyan. When you know many, when you have more and more degrees, our ignorance gets increased, not knowledge. We feel that we have become more knowledgeable. We know many things, but if that inflates our ego, then that denounces our wisdom. One thing is knowledge, another is wisdom. We may know many things, but unless we know the ultimate reality, we are ignorant, we miss the mark. The goal is not to know many things, the goal is to know God. And knowledge of God becomes distant for those, becomes away. Those who have got more degrees, more diplomas, more power position, more position in the life, economically, financially, sociologically and otherwise. They have to be more careful, they have to strive more hard, because they have more pash, more bandhan, more bondages, due to this inflation of ego. The main thing is the ego, ahankar. The ahankar is the prachir. Thicker the wall, away we are from God. Thinner the wall, we are closer to God. So we have to try to make this ego as thin as possible. But what we are doing, we are continuously flattening the ego. That's why we are becoming away from God. Goal is to not increase our ego. Goal is to realize God. And ego is separating us. That has to be remembered and implemented in life. So Sri Ramakrishna says, on account of the barrier of ego, one does not see God. All troubles come to an end when the ego dies. When the wall is broken, then we are facing God, face to face. God is our very near, seated within our heart, closest. And we are searching him from pillar to post. What is separating? This ego, the feeling of I and mine, feeling of this body consciousness. That's why he says, Ami mole ghuchibe janjal. मैं मरा की बला टली, अहंकार करना बीता है, यह शरीर यह ऐश्वर्य कुछ भी नहीं रह जाएगा. Now this feeling, this annihilation of ego, reduction of ego is possible by discrimination, vichar. How the ego can be effaced? Ego is very strong. However you may think, ego will not leave you. Ego is the jad. Sri Ramakrishna says, a banyan tree may be cut, but its root remains. Again the tree will sprout. So ego is having a deep root in our consciousness. However much you remove the ego, again it comes. So how to uproot this ego? How to get it away? Sri Ramakrishna says, we have to constantly think, neither body nor wealth will last. It is futile to be egotistic. Ego can be reduced by constantly thinking that this is transient, this is impermanent, it will not last for long. We are eternal. We are identifying ourselves with something which is transient. This thought must be there. No one wants to make this mistake. We want to make friendship with that which will last forever. But when we are convinced that our bondage, our identification with this entity is temporary, then that bondage loosens. We get identified with this body, thinking that this is permanent. That is the root of the ignorance. And that is very strange. It was asked to Yudhishthira by the Jaksha in Mahabharata that what is the strangest affair in this world, most wonderful thing in this world. आश्चर्य, सबसे ज्यादा आश्चर्य कौन चीज है? What is the most wonderful thing in this world? आश्चर्य की बात है, जवाब नहीं, लाजवाब आश्चर्य. युधिष्ठिर says, अहन्य अहन्य भूतानि, अहनि अहनि भूतानि, गच्छन्ति यम मंदिरम, शेषा स्थिरत्वम इच्छन्ति. किमाश्चर्यतः परम. इससे ज्यादा आश्चर्य कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता. एवरी डे अहनि अहनि, दिन प्रतिदिन, एवरी डे. भूतानि गच्छन्ति जम मंदिरम. एवरी डे द पीपल आर डाइंग, quoting death. We are seeing all around. Every day the death toll, everything around. However, those who are living, those who are alive, they think they will never die. They are permanent. Nobody wants to think of death. But that is inevitable. We cannot escape. So many people are dying around. Shesha sthirattam icchanti. Those who are living, they are praying, they are thinking to have some measure by which they can live forever. So this body will die someday or other. Body will not last for long, but will remain. So our engagement with this body is temporary. So more and more we think of this, so less and less our attachment to the body will become. We become less and less attached. We know that our partnership with this body is not forever, temporary. And so also our factors with which we feel egotistic, our wealth, our power position, our degrees, diplomas, whatever we have, the items to infatuate our ego, they're all temporary. They'll all vanish one day when this body falls. So he's giving this point with an anecdote. He's driving this point with an anecdote. He says, once a drunkard was looking at the image of Durga. He's giving a short story to drive this point. Once a drunkard was looking at the image of Durga, at the sight of her decoration, he said, "Well, mother, however you may fix yourself up, after 2 or 3 days, they will drag you out and throw you into the Ganges." कोई मतवाला दुर्गा की मूर्ति देख रहा था। प्रतिमा का सजावट देखकर उसने कहा, चाहे जितना बनो ठनो माँ, एक दिन लोग तुम्हें घसीटकर गंगा में डाल देगा। इसलिए सबसे कह रहा हूँ, जज हो जाओ, चाहे जो भी हो जाओ, सब 2 दिन के लिए है, इसलिए अभिमान और अहंकार को त्याग करना चाहिए। Whatever you may become, do not think that is the end of the world. It's only for transitory. Have something which will be of permanent value. This consciousness is temporary. It will be transitory. It will end one day. It will vanish one day. This gives, like the Pratima, Durga Pratima, we worship in the image of Durga for 3 or 4 days. So long as the worship is going on, the Pratima is the source of attraction. But once the puja is over, then it is drowned in the water. Nobody takes care of it. Khel khatam, paisa hajam. Similarly, we are drawing so much of attention and attraction from others. We also feeling so much of attraction to us. But once the body goes, everything is over. So we should attach our importance, our identification with something which is of permanent nature, which is God. God was with us, God is with us, God will be with us forever. So nature is transitory, God is permanent. Pratikshana parivartanshil, prakriti. Unfortunately, हम लोग प्रकृति से नाता जोड़ लिया, शरीर मन से रिश्ता जोड़ लिया, भगवान को भूल गए. We should rather disassociate our consciousness as much as possible from this body. Let the body be maintained with the purpose so that we can establish our identification with God. That is the purpose of this body. Body is not purposeless. Body has a purpose. This body has been given not to be enjoyed. The body has been given so that we can enjoy God consciousness. We have misused the body, abuse of the body. Body is not given for physical enjoyment. Body is received for divine bliss. शरीर मिलने के बाद अगर ईश्वर को भूल गए, भगवान को दर्शन नहीं किया, तो सब कुछ बेकार है. इसलिए श्री रामकृष्ण सेज, अहंकार अभिमान is drawn out of ignorance, convert it into knowledge, get yourself identified with God, try to have the divine bliss and make your life a blessed experience once for all. Never have this fear that someday it will all vanish. God, if you have establishment, your relation with God, it is permanent. It will never end. Unending joy will be given, provided you detach yourself from this body, from this world. Your consciousness is not saying that you have to take away, you destroy your body. You don't have to get away from this world. You have to delink your consciousness, asakti, attachment. World is not to be renounced. The renunciation should be the attachment. The body is not to be destroyed. Body should be maintained. But the attachment to this physical body should be as gradually reduced, and attachment to God has to be increased. The more and more we take away our consciousness from the body, more and more our consciousness automatically goes towards God. Samsar virag will generate Ishwar anurag. More we come away from north, more we are closer to, more we are close to north, the south. Two opposite directions, one way world, another way God. We should turn our attention towards God and gradually proceed towards God. Then only we will have ultimate bliss. We'll continue our discussion further in our next Sunday class. Niranjanam nityam ananta rupam bhaktanukampadhrita vigraham vai Ishavataram parameshamityam tam Ramakrishnam shirasa namama. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.